A lot of Trump allies and Republicans said, look, the Epstein thing will eventually die down, then it's late summer, and by the time you come back from congressional recess and Labor Day, people will have moved on. Well, it looks like that's not the case, partly because Donald Trump has extended this conflict with unusual moves and strange statements, and partly because Republicans in Congress at least want to pretend or say they're demanding information, whether or not they actually are doing so. And that's why we have news like this. Congress will question the former Trump Labor Secretary, Alex Acosta, who we told you about in our timeline. He was the federal prosecutor that cut that secret deal. You see the probe starts there, I showed you, and then under a Republican administration, it quickly went from indictment to a secret deal with a sweetheart, 1 year in prison. And as we reported, and Miami Herald has tracked this from the very beginning, they cut out even the victims from learning about the details of that suspicious deal. Well, now, finally, Congress is going to at least summon this individual and question him, Mr. Acosta. Remember, we also had this interview released late last week with Maxwell claiming that, well, whatever she did and saw, she's a convicted sex trafficker, she never saw any problems from Trump.
Did you ever hear Mr. Epstein or anybody say that President Trump had done anything inappropriate with masseuses or with anybody in your world?
Absolutely never. In any context.
Did you ever observe President Trump receive a massage?
Never.
You don't have to be a legal expert to wonder what the heck is going on there, where a sitting member of the government that prosecuted her as both a sex trafficker and a liar, winning those convictions, is now saying, oh, okay, never, 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 as if she is credible. The person who was not a party to that interview is the effective prosecutor who won Maxwell's conviction, Ms. Comey, who was recently ousted by the Trump administration. The interview itself was unusual, but if you ever were going to interview a convict for any reason and you had the prosecutor around who knows the case better than anyone and won it, well, you might have them involved. That was, of course, suspicious. Then there was the discussion of the 50th birthday letter that Trump allegedly sent to Epstein. We showed you that as well in our reporting. The Wall Street Journal first broke that story. We should note Trump both denies it and is suing over it. Here's the exchange.
Do you remember one way or the other whether President Trump submitted a letter for his 50th birthday?
I do not remember.
And the article that references the letter talks about like either a picture of a naked woman or something like that. Do you have any recollection of that?
I do not.
That question was odd in the sense of, does the DOJ have a reason to think that she was involved in the birthday mail? But I don't remember is not, it didn't happen. The letter is at the center, of course, of another subpoena because, as I told you, the news continues. Here's the AP covering how even congressional Republicans say if there is such a birthday book, they want it, and they're using their powers under law to get it if the Epstein estate has it. As for the infamous lists, remember, we showed you here, Trump vows declassification, and then his AG claims that she had the client list, then took it back. Pam Bondi, the sitting attorney general, clearly saying something false. As for Maxwell, well, she undercuts the Bondi claim that it existed, saying there is no such thing.
So, there's been a lot of conversations about whether Mr. Epstein maintained like a list of people, like a book of famous people that he knew, it's called a black book or a client list or a list. Did you know of the existence of any such list?
There is no list. We'll start with that. The genesis of that story I can actually trace for you from its absolute inception, if that is what you're interested in.
Again, there is a big difference if you're getting accurate testimony from someone saying they didn't see the list or weren't involved with the list to the sweeping claim there is no list. We don't know if there's a list. We know the Attorney General claimed there was. This has been a matter of great dispute. But legally, when you're doing this kind of investigation, if a defendant, now deceased, had some secret incriminating list, it's entirely possible that other people around him who knew about some bad things didn't know about that. So, while all of her statements as a convicted sex trafficker seeking preferential treatment are suspect, Her sweeping claim that there is no list is a reminder that she seems to be doing a lot more than she can accurately say, which is why this isn't very valid testimony in any legal sense, a point that other investigators and congressional Democrats have made.
And Maxwell goes into this interview undoubtedly told by her attorney, unless you completely exonerate the president, you're going to spend most of the rest of your life in prison. She wants a pardon. She says exactly what her lawyers tell her is going to be necessary to get a pardon. It all stinks to high heaven.
In that sense, while this may be a charade, it is one with implications. One of the victims' rights attorneys, who represents over 20 Epstein survivors, says many view the encounter that we just played you the audio from resembles a carefully scripted and choreographed dance rather than a, quote, interrogation of a convicted felon and accused perjurer. Barry Levine wrote The Spider, detailing the criminal web of Epstein and Maxwell. He's been nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. He takes no prisoners and doesn't do conspiracy theories, just does reporting. Imagine that. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Let's start with Maxwell, and eventually I want to turn to the unusual death of Epstein in prison, which you've covered. But what do you hear in these tapes? I pointed out legally the limits of this kind of testimony or statement. Certainly, its credibility. But having worked on this for so long, what do you hear in the new tape?
Well, in her interview, I mean, I don't even really regard it as an interview. To me, it came across as more of an infomercial, a scripted infomercial for her to get out of jail.
Yep.
This is a woman who has been very transactional. Even back at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's non-prosecution agreement, that horrible slap on the wrist that he received, 13 months of jail time, she wrote a glowing testimonial for Jeffrey Epstein. And interestingly enough, $30 million exchanged hands between Epstein's bank accounts and her bank accounts. Now, she later said that they might have been loans and for other things, but she comes across to me as extremely transactional. She is a perjurer. The government charged her as part of her initial charging with 2 counts of perjury. I don't believe anything she said. This is a woman, we know so many victims, not just the 4 who testified against her when she received the 20 years behind bars, but many other victims have said that she directed the grooming and also took part in the sexual abuse of victims.